What's up, TM Nation? So I've been testing these two JBL speakers out for the past few weeks now, and let me tell you right off the bat, if you're looking for the ultimate backpack speaker, in this video I'm gonna break down what you need to know about these two speakers to hopefully give you the information that you need to determine which one of these speakers is for you, or just be like me and go ahead and pick up both because they're both awesome speakers that serve slightly different purposes. Yes, we're talking about the JBL Flip 7 versus the JBL Charge 6, and even though there is a noticeable difference in the weight and size of these two speakers, the sound quality is much closer than you may think. Now, before we get too deep into the review, let me start with the quick highlights. And with the prices, the JBL Flip 7 is going to run you about $150 and the Charge 6 about $200. And it is worth noting that both did get price bumps from their predecessors, but here's the thing, when it comes to getting the perfect backpack speaker for your needs, it's not always about spending the most money, so stick with me throughout this video because like I said a moment ago, I'm going to cover everything that you need to know to make the decision of which one of these speakers deserves a spot in your collection. Alright, so first let's go ahead and talk about what makes a good backpack speaker. First is going to be portability, and this is where things get interesting. The Flip 7 is hands down the smallest and lightest option here. You can literally clip this thing to your backpack and forget it's there. I've taken it hiking with me attached to my backpack, and doing this did not weigh me down whatsoever. It felt just like when I attached my travel water bottle. The Charge 6 on the other hand is noticeably heavier and larger, but I do like the fact that inside of the box you do get a handle that you can attach if you want to. And as you can see, I've been rocking mine without the handle pretty much since I got it because it's easy enough for me to hold in the hands, but that handle does make it easier if you want to carry it. You can still attach it to your backpack if you want to, but let's be real, it's gonna add significantly more bulk than what you get with the Flip 7. Now, speaking of the real world testing, let me talk about the battery life first because this is important to any Bluetooth speaker. The Flip 7 claims 14 hours of use on a charge and the Charge 6 claims 24 hours, but during my testing with the speaker at 80% volume, which I think is the sweet spot, the Flip 7 gave me about 8 hours of use on a charge and the Charge 6 gave me about 10. But here's the thing, at 80% of the max volume, both speakers are way louder than you'd expect for their respective sizes. The Charge 6 definitely does get louder, which is to be expected, but the Flip 7 is no slouch by any means. I'd say that it could easily handle a 7 to 8 person hangout in a small space, whereas the Charge 6 is better for a slightly larger gathering in a medium-sized living room setup or backyard. Moving on to more of the features, this is where the Charge 6 starts to pull ahead for backpack use. With it, that USB Type-C port on the back is not only for charging the speaker, it can actually charge external devices as well, which is a feature that you don't get with the Flip 7. Just think about the convenience and the different use cases that you get with this feature. Say you're out on a hike or out having a picnic with your significant other and one of your phones start to die, you can easily plug it up to the Charge 6 and it automatically becomes a portable power bank. The Flip 7's USB Type-C port can do wired audio, which is cool, but just not as practical. Both speakers can connect to two different devices simultaneously, so you and somebody else can play DJ if you want to without having to disconnect from one device and connect to another. Also, latency has not been an issue for me with either speaker, so you should be able to watch YouTube videos and other streaming services without any noticeable delay or audio desync. Now, one thing that you don't get with either speaker, which is a bit of a bummer, is a built-in microphone for voice calls, so if that's a feature that you need, you're gonna have to look elsewhere. Alright fam, so now let me talk about the sound quality because like I said earlier, there's not a huge difference between them considering the size differences, but as for their designs, both speakers use the same basic setup, a front-firing woofer, a front-firing tweeter, and dual passive radiators on the side. The main difference is just the fact that the Charge 6 is bigger, which means more air movement and more bass. In my testing, like I said earlier, these speakers sound remarkably similar, and you would expect that to some extent because they're out of the same family, but to my ears, the instrument separation is pretty good on both speakers thanks to that woofer tweeter combo. But the Charge 6 gives you that fuller experience, especially at the higher volumes, where the Flip 7 tends to taper off a little bit and lose some of its steam, specifically in the bass department. Now, I do have to mention that JBL is pushing both of these speakers pretty hard, so occasionally with both speakers, if you push them to the max volume, you might catch a bit of tinny distortion in the highs, but again, that's not something that happens all of the time. From my experience, it happens when you have a lot of stuff going on in whatever you're listening to, and sustained sustain bass hits for several seconds at a time. But here's another thing that's cool about both of these speakers. They both feature the Auracast compatibility, which allows you to connect them wirelessly to other Auracast speakers like the Extreme 4, Clip 5, Go 4, or even some of JBL's newer Party Box speakers. This is way better than the old Party Boost system, and it means that your speaker investment will work with JBL's future releases.
You can bet we got that retro love. Yeah. And ain't no doubt this is gonna last. So if they ask, just say it's retro love. Make me feel like we stepped off a movie set. You can bet we got that retro love. And ain't no doubt this is gonna last. So if they ask, just say it's retro love. You make me feel like we stepped off a movie set. You can bet we got that retro love.
I refuse to let a bad night ruin me, just doesn't get through to me. Even back then, getting stopped by the truancy. Posted with the bros and turned the bond into a mutiny. One of them and then we handled it brutally. I refuse to let a bad night ruin me, just doesn't get through to me. Even back then, getting stopped by the truancy. Posted with the bros and turned the bond into a mutiny. One of them and then we handled it brutally. I refuse to let a bad night ruin me, just doesn't get through to me. Even back then, getting stopped by the truancy. Posted with the bros and turned the bond into a mutiny. One of them and then we handled it brutally.
So here's my take after weeks of real world testing with these speakers. If portability is your absolute top priority, you're going to be doing a lot of hiking, biking, or just want something that disappears in your bag, the Flip 7 is your speaker. But if you want the ultimate backpack speaker that can do it all, louder sound, longer battery life, and that crucial charging feature, the Charge 6 is worth the extra $50, in my opinion. The power bank function has already saved me once when I was outside recording footage for this video with my drone, and I had to juice it up. So all in all, fam, like I said, if you're someone who's always on the go and your phone battery management is questionable, like mine, I think that the Charge 6 is the way to go, and it makes the ultimate backpack companion. But if you're more of a minimalist and you just want great sound in the smallest package, the Flip 7 won't disappoint. But let me know what you think in the comments section. Are you team portability or team versatility? And if you own any of these speakers, let me know what your experience has been with them so far. But other than that, guys, as always, I appreciate you coming through and hanging out with your boy for a while. Please do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe before you get on out of here if you haven't already, as it does help the channel out immensely. But until next time, I will catch y'all in the next video. Peace.